Hello guys, this is Chandlika. Welcome to Learning Ladder of C language. In this tutorial, we are going to discuss about an array systems in C language. As I previously said in the last tutorial, there are two types of arrays are existed in C language. One is single dimensional array and multi-dimensional array. In previous tutorial, I am explained about a single dimensional array and how the single dimensional array are used in C language and how the data are allocated in the memory locations. Now let me discuss about the multi-dimensional array in C language. Before we are moving to the multi-dimensional multi-dimensional arrays in C language, first we have to know what is meant the multi-dimensional array. Suppose we are storing a data of a similar data type in more than one dimensional matrices in the sense, then we have to go for the multi-dimensional array. Here I am given for small example for the multi-dimensional array with the max size of 2x2. Here I used a data of an integer variable. In arrays, as previously said, only the similar data types are used to store the memory. So similar is applicable for the multi-dimensional array also. We can use more than one dimension to store the data, but the similar data type we can't save the different data types in the multi-dimensional array. So here let's take an example that 1 2 3 4 are arranged in the 2x2 matrix. Let take it example as an array, the two-dimensional array. This first 1 2 in the one dimension, then the 3 4 in the second dimension. So this example is said as a two-dimensional array. So in this two-dimensional array, how these values are specified in the sense, first the value will be start with a 0. As I previously said, in the arrays the size of an array will be existing and 0 to n minus 1 size that we have specified in the programming. So the size of an array initially start with a 0 comma 0. So the 0 comma 0 specifies that first row and first column data. So here 1 is specified for the index of an array is 0 comma 0. Similarly for this 2 value 0 comma 1 index. Similarly for the 3 1 comma 0 index and the 4 1 comma 1 index. So if we are specifying that an array is 2x2 array, then we can store the 4 data in the memory. So these 4 data can be arranged in the form of 2 data in a single dimension. So now let's see how these data are allocated in the memory. So the data that allocated in the memory in the sequence order are first is taken first column, first row value, and then the first row and second column value. So sequentially the value will be stored like this: 1 2 3 4 4. Now let's take an let's name this array as A. So as I named this array as an A in the sense, then this total array is represented with the variable A. This array can be referred by this A variable, and I specify the size of an array as 2x2. So now let's see how these data are represented by using the A variable. Suppose I want to get a value of 1 that stored in the index of 0 comma 0 in the sense, then this value should be referred as A 0 square brackets 0. So this index value refers to an value that stored in the first index. So this value referred by 1 is referred with the A variable as 0 comma 0. If suppose I want to specify refer the value of that stored in this first dimension second value in the sense, then we have to use A 0 comma 1. Similarly, same notation is used for all the elements in the two-dimensional array. For the third value we have to use 1 comma 0 and the fourth value 1 comma 1. Here the data that index value that 1 comma 1 specifies that first row and first column. Similarly for every element there is an index value to specify the value that's stored in an array. The similar notation is used for the accessing the value from the memory and to store the values in the memory. So if suppose we have to get the value that 1 in the memory in the sense, then we have to use A of 0 comma 0 index value. Similarly for same thing as applicable for the 2 3 4 values also. So as I previously said, the values will be stored like this: 1 2 3 4 5. 1 2 3 4. So the memory locations that will be stored in the memory in, for example, the integer value can take in 4 bytes of memory to store the value. So if suppose the value that stored 1 in the memory location, for example 1454 in the sense, then the value that stored in the second location is 1458. Similarly, the value that stored of a third location is 14562. Similarly, 1266. So like this, the memory allocation will be done in the memory table. Now let's go for a program how we can use this multidimensional array in the programming. To specify the multidimensional array, we have to use two square braces. Inside each square braces, we have to specify the size of an array. Here I specified the 2 and the second square bracket is 2. Then it specifies, it refers that then array is 2 cross 2. So to initialize and multidimensional array, there are two methods that existed. There are the inline initialization and the second line initialization. So first let me discuss. Now let's see how would the inline initialization. To initialize a two-dimensional array in the same line, we have to use an floor braces. Inside these floor braces, we have to use another floor braces. This first floor braces specifies that it is an first dimensional data. So the data that we entered in this first floor brace will compiler treat it as an first dimensional data. Then when it reads the comma after the first floor braces, then it go for it create a next dimension. So then the values will be stored in the second dimension. So like this 1 2 3 4 will be stored like a two-dimensional array. This initialization is similar to the initialization that I previously discussed. The value will be stored like this 1 2 3 4. Now let's see a next line initialization. For the next line initialization, we have to specify the index value of an array and the value data that we have to store in that particular index value. Here I specified that 0, 0, the value is 1. So it automatically stores the value of 1 in the matrix of first dimension and the first value. If suppose I specified 0, 1, then the value of that we specified in this index will be stored as a second element of a first dimension. Similarly applicable for the second dimension data also, like a 1 and 0 index value is 3. Similarly 1 is 4. This data will be stored like as previously said, this value will be stored like this 1 2 3 and 4 in the memory locations. So now let's see how these values can be retrieved from the memory and how we can give input to the memory. Here I use the inline initialization for the simplified purpose, and I taken a printf statement to print on each and every value in the command prompt. So here I use an /t and /n to specify an buffered two-dimensional array. So first let's compile this program. We are getting the value of 1 2 3 4 in the buffered matrix type. This buffered to get in this buffered matrix type, I have used this /t and /n alternatively. Now let's see how these values are stored in the memory locations. For this reason, I want to do a small modulation of the program. Just I use an address of each and every element index value of an array to get an address of the memory location where the elements are stored. Let's compile this program. Yeah, we are getting 1 2 3 4 as a data. Next, similarly, 1 is stored in the memory location 2 3 5 88 48, and the 2 is stored in the memory location 2 3 5 8852. Here the integer values takes 4 bytes of memory to store in each and every data. So for this reason we are getting 48 and 52 as a next memory location where the data is stored. Similarly 56 and 60, the sequence here memory locations are taken. The order of storing the values is 1 2 3 4 in the memory location. Instead of writing an every element in the printf statement, that we use and for loop to get in the values of a two-dimensional array to the command prompt. So for this reason, I'm going to do a small modulation of program. Yeah, I did a modulation of program. So I use here the two for loops to get a value in the output screen without repeated use of the same a reference variable to get a value from the output screen. So here I use it in first for loop with a value of integer value, that's why initially stored as a 0 and incremented with 1, and this loop is going to be done with until the I is less than 2. So this loop going to execute for 2 times. Next, similarly the next line itself I specified another for loop. Here the j value is initialized with 0 and incremented with 1, and this loop is going to be done for the 2 iterations. So this printf statement going to be executed for 2 times when we set through this in the for loop. But totally this printf statement going to be executed for 4 times. How it's going to be executed in the sense, first this first for loop is going to be identified by the compiler, the value that is inserted with 0, and then the inner loop is going to be executed. The next time the second for loop is identified, here the value of j is 0 and condition is 0 is less than 2, so it is true, so printf statement is going to be executed. Once again this j, so here this inner for loop is not get a false condition, so it's going to be executed once again. So j value will be incremented to 1, so the value will be 1 less than 2. So this next the printf statement will be executed. The first, while the first printf statement execution, the value of I and j is 0 0. Now the value of I and j is 0 and 1. So 0 and 1 index value is 2. Previously 0 and 0 is 1. So here we are going to get the first dimensional value of 1 2 in the output screen. So the next, this outer of for loop is not going to get false condition, so once again it's outer for loop is going to be executed. Now the value will be incremented I into 1, so I less than equal to is a 2 condition. Next the for loop going to be taken the second time the inner for loop, so now the value of j will be inserted freshly as 0, and then this condition 0 is less than 2. So now the I value is 1 and j value is 0, so 1 comma 0 is refers to the value of the stored in the second dimension of first value, it's 3. So similarly second time iteration 1 comma 1, this 1 comma 1 index refers to the second dimension of second value. So hence the printf statement is going to be executed 4 times, and the values of the element that's stored in the multi-dimensional array is going to be getting in the output screen. Now let's compile this program. We are getting values 1 2 3 4 in the output screen. Now we have an now we got an idea about how these two for loops are going to be executed, and why we are getting the output in the two-dimensional array. So by using these two for loop conditions, we can reduce the length of the code, so and the confusion of the programmer. Now let's see how to get an untimed dimensional array values in the C program. So for this reason I use an two for loop. So these two for loops are work similar to as and previously I said, how the values are getting through output command prompt through the two for loop conditions. So here I use a scan of to get an value. The first for loop condition, I'm going to take n variable, integer variable that stores a value of 0. The condition is 0 is less than 2, so it's a true condition. So next for loop is going to be executed. Here m is initialized with 0, then 0 is less than 2 condition check the value of so this for loop condition is true, the first scanf statement is going to be executed. Here the value of n and m is 0 comma 0, so the value that we entered first initial will be taken into the memory that will be stored in the first dimension and first value. So similarly the second address is going to be executed for this inner for loop. So now the value of m is incremented with 1, so 1 is less than 2, it is a true condition. So the newly updated value of n and m is 0 comma 1, so the index that is 0 1 is specified to and first dimension second value. So the value that we entered secondly through the keyboard to the command prompt will be taken as a second element of the first dimension. So next this inner for loop is going to be closed due to the wrong condition, because the m is incremented with 2 is less than 2, it is a false condition. So once again the outer for loop is going to be executed. Now the value of n is incremented with 1, so 1 is less than 2, it is going to be executed once again. So inner for loop is taken freshly, and the same value is set with 0 once again, and now the value of a index value is 1 comma 0. It specifies that the value that in the second dimension first value, so the value that we entered thirdly is going to be second dimension of first value. So similarly the value that we entered in the fourth time is known as in second dimension second value. First let's compile this program. Yeah, I'm entering the value of 1 and then 2 and 3 and 4. Yeah, we are getting 1 2 3 4 in the output screen. So This is how we can use given dynamical values to the multidimensional array in C programming language. That's all about and basics about the multidimensional array in C language. In the next tutorial, we will see and discuss about this multidimensional array in C language. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to get alert for the next tutorial video. Thank you.